I want to welcome you to this lesson. I'm going to teach you science, primary 6, third term, the last topic. And the topic is the reproductive system. The topic is the reproductive system. Previously, we were looking at diseases of the reproductive system. And I remember we stopped on signs of AIDS. We said AIDS is one of the viral diseases that AIDS is one of the viral diseases that affects the reproductive system. And we stopped on signs of AIDS. So this lesson, if you look at your booklets, you open page 70, that's where this lesson is going to begin, on page 70 in your science booklets. Signs of AIDS, number 1, we say loss of body weight. Loss of body weight. A victim who has AIDS will lose body weight. Then oral thrush. Oral thrush simply means a white coating in the mouth. And somebody who has AIDS will always have that white coating in the mouth, the one we call oral thrush. Then number 3, we have herpes zoster. Herpes zoster is, in Uganda it is called chisipi. It is something like, it forms something like a belt, either around your waist or around the neck of the victim. So there are rashes on the skin which form something like a belt. That's why it's called herpes zoster. Then we have chronic cough, then chronic diarrhea. The word chronic simply means severe. Then, how to control AIDS? AIDS can be controlled in so many ways. Number 1, abstaining from sex. Abstaining from sex. Having one faithful sexual partner. Then, avoid sharing sharp skin piercing objects. Avoid sharing sharp skin piercing objects. Number 4, through safe male circumcision. Through safe male circumcision. According to research, it is said that men who are circumcised can control AIDS. They are easily protected from AIDS around 40%. But that one doesn't mean that when you are circumcised you cannot get HIV/AIDS. You can still get, but you are protected against AIDS percentage-wise around 40%. But you have 60% chances of getting AIDS. Next, we look at ways of caring for AIDS victims. Ways of caring for AIDS victims. Ways of caring for AIDS victims. 1, allowing them to have enough rest and sleep. Allowing them to have enough rest and sleep. AIDS victims, they need enough rest and sleep. Feeding them on a balanced diet. Remember, AIDS victims take medicine, they take ARVs, and these ARVs drugs are very strong, so they need to feed. And you need to feed them on a balanced diet. This one helps them to improve their immunity. Then, through guiding and counseling them. Most of the AIDS victims have lost hope. So they need to be guided. We need to counsel them. For them to know that getting AIDS is not a death sentence. You can get AIDS, but you still live a normal life like any other person. Then giving them hope. They need hope that even after being infected with AIDS, you still have your life to live. Then taking them to the hospital for treatment. These AIDS victims need to be taken to the hospital where they are given ARVs, the AIDS drugs. Then giving them company. Giving them company is one way of caring for AIDS victims, simply because if they remain alone, some of them feel isolated, yet they are normal human beings like others. Just because they have AIDS, they should not be isolated. They need to stay with us normally. That's why we are saying we need to give them company. Don't run away from them. Stay with them. That one will help them to stay alive for a long time. Then we have effects of AIDS to the community. Effects of AIDS to the community. How does AIDS affect the community where we live? One, it causes death of many people in the community. People in the community are dying because of AIDS. That's already an effect. Number two, it leads to increased number of orphans. It leads to increased number of orphans. Now, when parents die of AIDS, they leave their children without parents. So the children will become orphans. And some of them, because they don't have anyone to look after them, they end up going to the streets and they become street children. So it leads to increased number of orphans in the community. Number three, AIDS can lead to poverty because of death of productive people. In the family, if we have somebody who is rich or somebody who has money in a family and he dies of AIDS, you may find that the family can become poor because that person has died of AIDS. So it leads to poverty in the community due to death of productive people. Then the last one, it leads to reduction of labor force. It leads to reduction of labor force. You find that in some people who die of AIDS, some of them are doctors, engineers, teachers, who have a lot of experience of work. And when they die, replacing them becomes a problem, especially if they are experts. Like if you have a very good doctor or a very good engineer who has a lot of knowledge, and he dies of AIDS, we will have lost the labor force because of AIDS. Then we have effects of AIDS to an individual. Effects of AIDS to an individual. It weakens the body immune system. It weakens the body immune system. Now, how does it weaken the body immune system? By destroying the white blood cells. White blood cells produce antibodies which boost body immunity. Now, because of AIDS, the HIV virus destroys the white blood cells. And when white blood cells are destroyed, then the body immune system becomes weak. Then after, somebody dies. It causes death. Those are the two effects of AIDS to an individual. Weakening body immunity, then it causes death. Then lastly, effects of AIDS to the family. How does the AIDS affect the family? Just like the community, it causes death of family members. People in the family die because of AIDS. Then it causes poverty due to death of productive people. It causes poverty due to death of productive people. It also causes, or it leads to orphans. It leads to orphans in the family. It leads to orphans in the family because you find that when parents die, children, if they die of AIDS, children in the family remain without parents and they become orphans. That's about AIDS. So we are done with looking at the diseases of the reproductive system. Then next we are going to look at family planning. Welcome once again to Primary 6, third term work. We're going to look at family planning. Previously we were looking at diseases of the reproductive system. Now the next thing after that, we're supposed to look at family planning. Family planning. and child spacing. What is child spacing? Child spacing is providing adequate time between the births of children in a family. Child spacing is providing adequate time. The word is adequate time between the births of children in a family. That time between from one child to another. For example, if parents produce children, how long do they take, if they produce one child, let me say the firstborn, how long they take to produce the second-born? That space between those two children is what we call child spacing. It can be 2 years, it can be 3 years, it can be 4 years, it can be 5 years. It depends. That's what we call child spacing. It's providing adequate time between the births of children in a family. So when parents give birth to children in a family, they are supposed to spend some time, like 3-4 years, before they give birth to another one. So that time between the births of children in a family is what you call child spacing. Advantages of child spacing. How is child spacing important? One, it prevents maternal anemia. It prevents maternal anemia. It prevents maternal anemia. Child spacing prevents maternal anemia. Now, maternal anemia simply means pregnant women. The word maternal comes from the word mother. Pregnant women, when they give birth, they lose a lot of blood. And sometimes they end up getting maternal anemia. So when they give birth frequently, they get maternal anemia because every time they give birth, they lose a lot of blood, which may lead to maternal anemia. So that means when you carry out child spacing, when you space these children as you are giving birth, it helps these mothers not to get maternal anemia. That's why we are saying child spacing prevents maternal anemia, because it gives the mother's body time to rebuild and get more blood before she can give birth to another child. Then it helps parents to provide enough basic needs to their children. It helps parents to provide enough basic needs to their children. Basic needs like food, clothes, even paying, educating their children, medical care. Parents who have so many children, they find it hard to provide enough basic needs to their children. But when you carry out child spacing, it simply means that you will give birth to these children when you are ready for them, and you'll be in a position to provide enough basic needs. So it helps parents to provide enough basic needs to their children. Number 3, another advantage is it helps in proper growth of the children. It helps in proper growth of the children. If parents give birth to the children or to a child before they give birth to another one, this one they have given birth to, this child is given enough time and enough care before they produce another one. But if they produce children frequently or within a very short period of time, this child or these children will not receive enough care. They will not receive enough care. So it helps in proper growth of children, especially those who have been born. Then next we look at family planning. What is family planning? Family planning is the use of birth control methods to determine the number of children to produce. Family planning is the use of birth control methods, or the use of family planning methods to determine the number of children to produce. I repeat, family planning is the use of birth control methods to determine the number of children to produce. Importance of family planning. Importance of family planning. Why is it important for parents to practice family planning? Number one, it promotes child spacing. Our family planning promotes child spacing. We have already looked at child spacing, and we said child spacing is providing adequate time between the births of children in a family. How do you provide this adequate time between the births of children in a family? How does family planning promote child spacing? Remember when you use birth control methods, like we are going to look at the examples of family planning methods. Like for example, now we have using condoms. When you use condoms, it helps parents, or it prevents pregnancy. It prevents pregnancy. That's why we are saying it promotes child spacing. Then it controls overpopulation. Family planning controls overpopulation. Another person can say family planning controls population growth. Family planning controls population growth. Because if parents don't, or if people don't use or practice family planning, then they will produce so many children, and that one will lead to overpopulation. So to control the population growth, people or parents are advised to use family planning methods. Then it helps parents to have a manageable family. It helps parents to have a manageable family. In other words, these parents will be able to provide enough basic needs to their children or to the family. Then number 4, it prevents maternal anemia. Family planning helps to prevent maternal anemia. Then lastly, it controls infant mortality rate. It controls infant mortality rate. Parents who give birth frequently, sometimes their children end up dying because of giving birth frequently. Now, when they carry out family planning, the infant mortality rate reduces. Infant mortality rate reduces. The word mortality simply means death. So when you talk of infant mortality rate, we're talking about reducing the number of children who die when they are very young. That number reduces. That's why we are saying family planning controls infant mortality rate. Reasons why some parents produce many children. Reasons why some parents produce many children. 1, ignorance about family planning methods. Ignorance. The word ignorance simply means lack of knowledge. Some parents don't have knowledge about family planning. They don't know that they can use family planning methods to control pregnancy or to avoid having so many children. They are ignorant. So ignorance about family planning methods is one of the reasons why some parents may produce so many children. Then high fertility rate in some women. High fertility rate in some women. There are women who are too fertile. What do we mean when we say high fertility rate? During ovulation, they produce so many egg cells. They produce so many ova. And you may find a woman producing, like recently in South Africa, we have a woman who gave birth to 10 children. Such a woman, the fertility rate is high. So you may find that if she gave birth 4 times, she will have 40 children. Every time she gives birth to 10. There are those ones, every time they give birth to twins, others give birth to triplets, others give birth to 6 children, others 8 children. So, meaning that their fertility rate is high. And that's the reason why they have so many children. Then, desire for a certain gender or sex. Desire for a certain gender or sex. There are parents who produce only girls. They have only girls. So they keep on trying until they get a boy, the gender they want, then they stop. So, because they desire to get a certain gender, they keep on producing until they get the gender they hope for. Then myth of male strength. Myth of male strength. The word myth simply means something that is said to be true but it's not true. That's a myth. So in talk of myth of the male strength, there are men who believe that they will be considered important in the community basing on the number of children they produce. So they think the more children they produce, the more important they will be in the community, which is not true. Even though you have one child, you are still important. So producing many children does not make you an important person. Next, we look at methods of family planning. Family planning is divided. Family planning methods are divided into two major groups. We have natural family planning methods. Natural family planning methods. Then number two, artificial family planning methods. Artificial family planning methods. I say methods of family planning are divided into two major groups. The first major group is natural family planning methods and artificial family planning methods. Now, with artificial family planning methods, these are methods that are made by man. These devices are made by human beings. For example, if you talk of devices like diaphragm, condoms, they were invented by human beings. Then natural family planning methods, these are methods which are naturally exist naturally on their own. Let's look at examples of natural family planning methods. One, we have abstaining from sex. Abstaining from sex is a natural family planning method. We don't have any artificial device there. Then we have withdrawal method. Withdrawal method. Then number three, we have rhythm method. Rhythm method. Then number four, we have prolonged breastfeeding. Prolonged breastfeeding. I said one, abstaining from sex, withdrawal method, rhythm method, and prolonged breastfeeding. And here I'm underlining the word prolonged, not just breastfeeding. But this breastfeeding should be prolonged breastfeeding. These explanations of these different family planning methods will come in our next lesson. Next, look at advantages of natural family planning methods. Advantages of natural family planning methods. One, they are easy to use. They are easy to use. They are easy to use. Like abstaining from sex is easy. It is cheap. They are cheap. You don't need to buy anything. Like withdrawal method, rhythm method, breastfeeding. You don't incur any costs when it comes to natural family planning method. That's why we are saying they are cheap. They are easy to use. They are convenient. But these natural family planning methods, they also have some disadvantages. Disadvantages of natural family planning methods. One, they are not reliable. They are not reliable. Like for example, withdrawal method is not a reliable method. Even abstaining from sex, there are people who cannot abstain. You agree that you are to abstain, then some of them fail to abstain. And then number two, they require complete cooperation of both husband and wife. For example, if the husband and wife agree that they are going to abstain, they must cooperate. But if they don't cooperate, maybe one may want to abstain and the other may not want. So that method may not work if they don't cooperate. Then they require a lot of teaching and supervision. They require a lot of teaching and supervision. Like for example, reading method. Reading method requires a lot of teaching and supervision. Next, we look at examples of artificial family planning methods. Examples of artificial family planning methods. Number 1, using condoms. Number 2, using a diaphragm. Using a diaphragm. Number 3, using intrauterine devices, the ones we call IUDs. IUDs in full is intrauterine devices. Then number 4, using spermicides. Spermicides, these are chemicals that are used to kill sperm cells. They are called spermicides. Then number 5, using birth control pills. These ones are swallowed orally. Then we have using birth control injections. Birth control injections are given to women. Then using foams and jellies. Using foams and jellies. Using foams and jellies. Then we have tubal ligation and lastly vasectomy. Tubal ligation and lastly vasectomy. So these are examples of family planning methods. Remember, we say we have natural family planning methods and artificial family planning methods. We've said with natural, we've given examples, there are around 4. Then artificial, there are so many. Then next, I would like to advise you, because in our next episode or in our next lesson, we are now done with the P6 syllabus. We are now going to primary 7. In our next lesson, we shall look at the first topic of P7, which is the human skeleton. The human skeleton. Therefore, I advise you and urge you to come to school and buy the P7 workbooks. The P7 booklets are ready, because you may not be able to follow those lessons if you've not bought the P7 booklets. Therefore, I advise you once again, come to school and buy P7 booklets so that you can follow our YouTube lessons properly. Otherwise, thank you for listening to me. I remain Teacher John. Thank you.